All right, so today we are diving into The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. Have you ever heard of this one? I'm really excited about
I
this.
think it's a classic. Yeah, it's so insightful.
It's packed with wisdom. We're going to unpack some of the key insights for you today.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is most intriguing about this author? Like Florence Scovel Shinn, she was kind of a unique person, right?
Yeah, she was. I think what's so interesting about her is that she blended her background as an artist with her um, sort of metaphysics
Yeah.
into her teaching. She was a really prominent figure in the New Thought movement
Okay.
in the early 20th century. And I think her work still resonates today because it speaks to that universal human desire to understand what shapes our lives and, how to create a better reality.
Okay, so Shinn's main idea is that life is a game, right? To win, we have to understand the spiritual rules.
Right.
And she believed that those rules are laid out in the Bible.
Right.
It's a pretty bold claim.
It is, but I think what she's really getting at is that there are these universal laws that are governing not just the physical world,
Okay.
but also the mental and spiritual realms. And these laws, she argues, are just as consistent and predictable as the laws of physics.
So if we understand these laws, we can influence our lives.
Exactly. Yeah. And a key principle she emphasizes is this law of giving and receiving, which is what you send out comes back to you. And that's not just material things. It's also energy, thoughts, emotions. If you project negativity, you attract more negativity. But if you radiate love and positivity, that's what you'll draw into your life.
I've always been a little skeptical about the whole, what you put out is what you get back idea.
Yeah.
It seems a little too simplistic.
Yeah, it's easy to dismiss it as new age fluff, but there's actually a surprising amount of depth to it.
Okay.
I think about it this way. Our thoughts and beliefs create our reality, right? If you constantly tell yourself you're unlucky, you'll subconsciously look for evidence that confirms that belief. And you might even miss opportunities that don't fit that. But, if you cultivate the belief in your own good fortune,
Right.
then you'll start to perceive the world differently and you'll be more open to receiving
That makes sense.
blessings.
It's like we create a self-fulfilling prophecy with our own thoughts.
Exactly.
But how do we actually change those deep-seated beliefs, especially the ones that we've been holding on to since childhood?
That's where the power of the subconscious mind comes in, and Shinn dives deep into this.
Okay.
She argues that the subconscious is like this fertile ground. Whatever seeds we plant there, whether they're positive or negative, will ultimately grow and bear fruit in our lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we've been planting negative seeds for years, how do we switch to planting positive ones? It feels like those old thought patterns are so deeply rooted.
Shinn believes that one powerful way to reprogram the subconscious is through the conscious use of our imagination.
Oh, like visualization.
Yeah, like visualizing what we want. It's more than just fleeting visualizations, though.
Right. Okay.
It's about creating a vivid and detailed mental picture of what you desire, engaging all your senses, and holding that image in your mind with unwavering faith and expectation.
So it's about feeling the reality of what you want, not just thinking about it.
Exactly. Remember that story she shared about the woman who, as a child, constantly pretended to be a widow?
Yeah. Yeah. That one was kind of creepy. She ended up actually living out that scenario as an adult.
Right, precisely. It's a very dramatic example.
Yeah.
It kind of underscores that the subconscious doesn't really distinguish between imagination and reality.
Mhm.
What we consistently impress upon it will eventually manifest in our outer world.
Okay, that's pretty powerful and a little daunting, too.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how much responsibility we have for our own thoughts.
It does, and it leads us to another key concept that Shinn explores,
Okay.
which is the three departments of the mind: the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious.
All right, let's break those down. The subconscious, we know, is like the fertile ground where our thoughts and beliefs take root.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the conscious mind? What role does that play?
The conscious mind is our thinking, reasoning self, right? It's the part of us that makes choices and decisions. But here's the thing. It's often influenced by fear, doubt, and limiting beliefs, a lot of which stem from past conditioning and societal programming.
So it's not always a reliable source of guidance.
Exactly, yeah. And this is where the superconscious comes in.
Okay.
Shinn described it as the God mind within, the realm of infinite potential, pure wisdom, and divine inspiration.
So it's like the ultimate source of truth and guidance.
Precisely. And she believed that we can tap into this higher intelligence through intuition, prayer, and meditation. But it's not always easy to hear its whispers, especially when our conscious mind is cluttered with fear and negativity.
So how do we quiet the chatter of the conscious mind and access this superconscious wisdom?
One technique Shinn emphasized is the power of the spoken word. She believed that words carry a vibratory force that can shape our reality. What we speak aloud, even casually, has the power to influence our subconscious and ultimately our experiences.
I've heard the saying, words create worlds, but I never really thought about it in this context.
Think about the story she shared about the woman who jokingly wished she lived in a trunk.
Yeah.
While she didn't end up literally living in a trunk, she did find herself in this really cramped and limited situation.
Right.
It just highlights how even seemingly insignificant words can have unintended consequences.
Wow, that's a bit unsettling. I guess it's time to start paying more attention to my self-talk.
Yeah.
If our words have that much power, we need to choose them carefully.
Absolutely. And Shin believed that affirmations are a powerful tool for reprogramming the subconscious mind. By consciously choosing positive statements that align with our desires, we can begin to shift our beliefs and create a more fulfilling reality.
So instead of saying I'm always broke, you'd affirm, I am a magnet for abundance.
Exactly. It's about replacing those negative, self-limiting thoughts with positive, empowering statements that align with the reality you want to create. But it's not just about repeating words mindlessly. It's about feeling the truth of those affirmations deep within your being.
So it's about aligning your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs with your spoken words.
Precisely. It's about creating a state of inner congruence that sets the law of attraction in motion.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about the law of giving and receiving, the power of the subconscious mind, the three departments of mind, and the importance of the spoken word.
Okay.
Are those all connected somehow?
They are. They're all interconnected aspects of what Shin called the game of life.
Okay.
And understanding these principles is key to playing the game effectively and manifesting our desires.
All right, now I'm really intrigued. I want to learn more about how these principles work together.
Well, then let's dive into one of Shin's most famous concepts, the law of prosperity.
And that's something I think we could all benefit from. Tell me more.
Shin believed that God is our infinite supply, meaning abundance is our birthright. And we can release that abundance into our lives through our thoughts, beliefs, and actions.
Wait, so we're not talking about just material wealth here.
No, it's a much broader concept of prosperity, abundance in all areas of life. Health, happiness, love, creativity, and yes, financial well-being too. But the key is to align ourselves with this truth on an inner level.
But how do we actually do that? I mean, it's easy to say God is my infinite supply, but what if you're facing a mountain of bills and you feel anything but abundant?
That's where the principle of acting as if comes in,
Okay.
which Shin emphasizes throughout her book. She believed that by acting as if we already have what we desire, we impress that image upon our subconscious mind, and we begin to attract the circumstances and opportunities that align with that belief.
Okay, but how do you act as if when your reality seems so different?
She shares a very compelling story to illustrate this point. A woman facing a lawsuit and lacking the funds to cover it felt completely overwhelmed. And Shin encouraged her to act as if the money was already hers. She even suggested the woman treat herself to this luxurious lunch, as if she had an abundance of resources.
Did it work? Did she manifest the money?
She did.
Yeah.
In this seemingly chance encounter, a relative offered her the exact amount she needed.
Wow.
So by aligning her thoughts and actions with abundance, even in the face of these challenging circumstances, she opened herself to receiving the miracle she needed.
That's incredible. But what if it doesn't work out that smoothly? What if you're putting all this effort into acting as if, and nothing seems to be changing? It seems like it would be easy to get discouraged.
That's where another key principle comes in, the law of non-resistance.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah?
I've heard about the idea of non-resistance, but I'm not sure I fully understand it.
It's a concept found in many spiritual traditions, and Shin puts her own spin on it. Essentially, it's about recognizing that resistance creates more resistance. When we fight against what is, we only amplify the struggle.
So it's about accepting what is, even if it's not what we want.
It's about surrendering to the present moment, even if it's unpleasant.
Right.
And trusting that there's a higher purpose at play.
Okay, but isn't that just giving up? How do you reconcile acceptance with taking action to change your circumstances?
It's not about passivity. It's about shifting our perspective and aligning ourselves with the flow of life rather than fighting against the current.
Okay.
Shin believed that true power lies in letting go of our need to control everything and trusting that the universe has a plan, even when we can't see it.
That's a tough one. It seems like it would require a huge leap of faith.
It does, but think about it this way. When we're tense and resistant, we constrict the flow of energy. We block our own blessings. But when we relax, surrender, and trust, we open ourselves to receiving the guidance and support that's always available to us.
So it's about finding that delicate balance between taking inspired action and surrendering to the wisdom of the universe.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful ways to cultivate this state of non-resistance is through the practice of forgiveness.
Ah, forgiveness. I've heard it said that forgiveness is more about freeing yourself than freeing the other person.
Shin would wholeheartedly agree. She believed that holding on to resentment, anger, or grudges creates energetic blockages that prevent us from moving forward and experiencing the fullness of life.
It's like carrying around a heavy suitcase filled with rocks. You're just weighing yourself down.
Exactly. And those rocks can manifest as physical ailments, emotional distress, or simply a feeling of being stuck.
So forgiveness is essentially about releasing those rocks and freeing ourselves from the weight of the past.
Precisely. And Shin believed that forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice.
Okay.
It's about choosing, moment by moment, to let go of those negative thoughts and emotions that keep us tethered to past hurts.
But how do you forgive someone who has deeply hurt you? It seems almost impossible sometimes.
It's not about condoning the other person's actions. It's about recognizing that we're all imperfect beings on a spiritual journey, and we all make mistakes. It's about choosing to see the situation from a higher perspective, understanding that everyone is doing the best they can with the awareness they have at the time.
So it's about extending compassion, both to ourselves and to others, recognizing that we're all in this together.
Exactly. And Shin believed that forgiveness is essential for aligning ourselves with the law of karma.
Okay, I've heard of karma, but how does it fit into all of this?
Shin interpreted the law of karma as the principle of cause and effect.
Okay.
What we send out into the world through our thoughts, words, and actions ultimately comes back to us.
So if we act with kindness and compassion, we'll attract more kindness and compassion into our lives.
Exactly. But it also means that if we hold on to anger and resentment, we'll continue to experience those emotions in our own lives, perhaps reflected back to us in unexpected ways.
So forgiveness is a way of breaking free from that cycle of negativity.
Precisely. It's a way of choosing love over fear and creating a more harmonious experience of life.
This is a lot to take in. It seems like these principles, the law of giving and receiving, the law of prosperity, the law of non-resistance, and the law of karma are all interwoven.
They are, and Shin believed that mastering these principles is the key to playing the game of life effectively and creating a reality that reflects our highest potential.
All right, my mind is officially blown. It's definitely going to need some time to process all of this.
Well, then let's take a break here and continue our exploration of Shin's work in the next segment.
I'm ready for more. Stay tuned, listeners, because we're just getting started with our deep dive into the game of life and how to play it.
Welcome back. We've been exploring some pretty profound concepts from Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life and How to Play It.
Yeah, my head is still spinning a bit from that last segment.
I bet.
So much to think about. We were just talking about forgiveness and the law of karma, and it's just a lot to wrap your mind around.
It is. But what's so fascinating is how Shin connects those principles to very practical techniques
Okay,
for transforming our lives.
so let's get practical. What are some specific things that we can do to apply these ideas to, like, everyday challenges?
One technique Shin highlights is casting the burden.
Okay.
It's a really powerful way to release anxieties and problems to the superconscious mind.
Okay.
You know, that realm of infinite wisdom and power that we discussed earlier.
It sounds a bit like the serenity prayer. Like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
It's very similar. Shin believed that we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders.
Right.
We can release our worries and trust that a higher power is working things out for our highest good.
Okay, so how do you actually cast the burden? Like, do you just say a prayer and hope for the best?
It's more about a conscious shift in attitude and perspective.
Okay.
It's recognizing that we don't have all the answers, and that sometimes the best course of action is to surrender our problems to a higher power
Okay.
and trust that solutions will emerge in perfect timing.
Okay. Do you have an example from the book, like, that kind of illustrates this technique?
Yeah. Shin tells this story about a woman who was desperate to rent out her piano to make space for a new one that was being delivered. She tried everything, but no one seemed interested. Feeling overwhelmed, she decided to, as Shin puts it, cast the burden on the Christ within.
And what happened?
Just moments later, a friend calls out of the blue, offers to rent the piano.
Wow, talk about perfect timing.
Right.
But what if you're dealing with, like, a situation that requires immediate action? Does casting the burden still apply?
Absolutely. It's not about becoming passive or avoiding responsibility.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that even in situations that demand swift action,
Okay.
we can still tap into that higher wisdom and guidance. It's about taking inspired action rather than reacting impulsively out of fear or anxiety.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, again,
Right.
between taking action and surrendering to the flow of life.
Exactly. And Shin believed that one of the most powerful ways to access that flow is through love.
Ah, love. It always comes back to love, doesn't it?
It does. Shin believed that love is the most powerful force in the universe.
Okay.
It has the power to heal, to transform, to create miracles. She taught that when we approach life with love and goodwill, we raise our vibration and attract those positive experiences.
But what about those times when it's really hard to feel loving? Like when you've been hurt or betrayed. How do you access that love when you're feeling anything but loving?
Shin believed that love is not just an emotion, it's a choice.
Okay.
A conscious decision that we make, moment by moment, to see the good in ourselves and others, even when it's challenging.
So it's about choosing to focus on the positive, even when you're surrounded by negativity.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective and recognizing that everyone is doing the best they can with the awareness they have at the time.
It reminds me of that saying, everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind, always.
Such a powerful reminder.
Yeah.
And Shin believed that one of the most important ways to cultivate this loving awareness is through the practice of forgiveness. We
Yeah.
talked about it earlier, but it bears repeating that forgiveness is essential for releasing the negativity that blocks our good and for aligning ourselves with that flow of love and abundance.
It sounds like Shin was a big believer in the power of positive thinking. But isn't there a danger in becoming too Pollyannish, like ignoring the negative aspects of life?
That's a great question, and Shin addressed that concern directly. She wasn't advocating for burying our heads in the sand, right, and pretending that everything's rosy. It's more about consciously choosing where we focus our attention.
Okay, so it's not about denying the negative. It's about choosing to focus on the positive.
Exactly. She believed that what we focus on expands. If we dwell on negativity, we'll attract more negativity into our lives. But if we cultivate an attitude of gratitude and we focus on the good, we open ourselves to receive more blessings.
It's like those choose your own adventure books.
Yeah.
We have the power to choose the direction of our thoughts and ultimately the course of our lives.
That's a great analogy. And Shin believed that this power of choice extends to every area of our lives,
Okay.
including our relationships.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting. Tell me more about what Shin had to say about relationships.
Shin believed that our relationships are a mirror, reflecting our own beliefs and patterns. She observed that we often attract partners who embody the qualities that we haven't fully embraced within ourselves.
So if you're struggling with self-worth, you might attract a partner who's critical and judgmental.
Exactly. It's like the universe is giving us an opportunity to see those aspects of ourselves more clearly
Okay.
and to heal them.
So our relationships are essentially opportunities for growth and transformation.
Precisely. And Shin believed that one of the most important lessons we learn in relationships is the power of non-resistance. She observed that when we try to control or change our partners, we create tension and conflict.
Yeah.
But when we surrender our expectations and allow them to be who they are, we create space for love to flow more freely.
That's easier said than done. It's natural to want to change the people that we love, especially if we see them making choices that hurt themselves or others.
It is. But Shin believed that true love is about acceptance, not control.
Okay.
It's about allowing our loved ones to walk their own path, even if it's different from the one we would choose for them.
That takes a lot of trust and faith,
Yeah.
to let go of that need to control.
It does. But Shin believed that when we surrender our need to control, we open ourselves up to experiencing a deeper level of love and connection.
So it's about letting go of our ego's desire to be right or to have things our way,
Mm-hmm.
and trusting that a higher wisdom is guiding the relationship.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful ways to cultivate this trust is through the practice of forgiveness.
Again, with forgiveness, it seems to be the key to everything.
It is, because when we forgive ourselves and our partners for past hurts, We release the negativity that blocks the flow of love
Yeah.
and create space for healing and growth.
So forgiveness is about clearing the air and creating like a clean slate for the relationship to blossom.
Precisely. And Shin believed that this principle of forgiveness extends beyond romantic relationships. It applies to all our interactions,
Okay.
with family, friends, colleagues, even strangers.
It sounds like she was advocating for a radical shift in perspective, like choosing love and forgiveness over judgment and blame.
She was. And she believed that this shift in consciousness is essential for creating a more harmonious and fulfilling experience of life, both individually and collectively.
Okay, so we've talked about forgiveness, love, and non-resistance in relationships. But what about those times when a relationship is just not working, no matter how much love and forgiveness you pour into it? Does Shin address that?
She does. And she believed that sometimes the most loving act is to let go. She observed that sometimes people come into our lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And when a relationship has served its purpose, it's natural for it to end.
So it sounds like she was advocating for like a more fluid and dynamic view of relationships, recognizing that they can evolve and change over time.
Exactly. And she believed that even relationships that end can be valuable learning experiences. They teach us about ourselves, our needs, and our capacity for love.
It's a reminder that every experience, even those that seem painful or difficult, can be an opportunity for growth and transformation.
Precisely. And Shin believed that this journey of growth and transformation is ultimately guided by our intuition, that inner voice of wisdom that's always leading us towards our highest good.
Ah, intuition.
Hmm.
I've always been fascinated by the idea intuition, but I'm not always sure how to distinguish it from like my own thoughts and desires. How do you know when it's your intuition speaking and not just your ego trying to get its way?
That's a great question, and it's one that Shin addresses in her work. She believed that intuition speaks in a still, small voice. It's often subtle and quiet, easily drowned out by the chatter of the conscious mind.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's about learning to quiet the mind and listen for those whispers of wisdom.
exactly. And Shin believed that one of the best ways to cultivate our intuition is through the practice of meditation.
Okay, meditation. I've tried it a few times, but I'm not very good at it. My mind just won't stop racing.
It takes practice, but even a few minutes of quiet contemplation each day can make a big difference.
Okay.
It's about creating that space for the inner wisdom to emerge.
So it's about shifting from a state of doing to a state of being.
Exactly. And Shin believed that when we create this space for stillness and receptivity, we open ourselves up to receiving divine guidance, not just in our relationships, but in all areas of our lives.
So it sounds like she was advocating for like a more mindful and an intentional way of living, like being present in each moment and attuned to those subtle cues and guidance that are always available to us.
She was. And she believed that this mindful awareness extends to our physical well-being as well.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize she talked about health in her book. What did she have to say about it?
Shin believed that our physical bodies are a reflection of our thoughts and beliefs.
Okay.
She observed that illness often stems from negative thought patterns, emotional blockages, and a lack of self-love.
So our mental and emotional state can actually manifest as physical symptoms.
Exactly. And she believed that the key to healing is to address the root cause, not just the symptoms.
So instead of just popping a pill to mask the pain, you would explore the underlying emotional or spiritual issue that's contributing to the illness.
Precisely. She believed that true healing involves a holistic approach, addressing the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual aspects of our being.
It sounds like she was way ahead of her time. This idea of the mind-body connection is really gaining traction in modern medicine.
It is. And Shin offered many practical techniques for promoting physical health and well-being. She was a big advocate for affirmations, visualizations, and the power of positive self-talk.
So instead of saying, I'm always getting sick, you'd affirm, I am healthy, vibrant, and full of energy.
Exactly. It's about replacing those negative, self-limiting thoughts
Right.
with positive, empowering statements that align with the state of health and vitality that you desire.
Okay. But what if you're dealing with a serious illness? Can positive thinking really make a difference in that situation?
Shin believed that it could. She shares stories of people who had experienced remarkable healings through the power of faith, prayer, and positive affirmations. She also emphasized the importance of surrendering to a higher power and trusting in the healing process.
So it sounds like she was advocating for like a partnership between conventional medicine and spiritual practices.
She was. She believed that we can draw upon the wisdom of both worlds to create optimal health and well-being.
So it's about taking responsibility for our own health, both physically and mentally, and using all the tools available to us to create a state of wholeness and vitality.
Exactly. And she believed that this journey of healing and self-discovery is ultimately about aligning ourselves with our divine design,
Okay.
the unique and special purpose that each of us is here to fulfill.
Ah, our divine design. That's a concept that we touched on earlier, but I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, Shin believed that each of us has this unique and special gift to offer the world. A talent, a skill, a passion that's meant to be expressed and shared. She called this our divine design and believed that discovering and expressing this purpose is essential for experiencing true happiness and fulfillment.
So it's like we each have a piece of the puzzle that's meant to fit perfectly into the grand scheme of them.
Exactly. And she believed that when we align ourselves with our divine design, everything falls into place. The right opportunities, the right people, the right resources, it all magically appears.
But how do we actually discover our divine design? It seems like it could be elusive.
Shin encouraged us to look within, to connect with our intuition, to pay attention to what brings us joy and excitement. She believed that our passions are often clues to our purpose.
So if you love to write, maybe your divine design involves using your writing talents to inspire or uplift others.
Exactly. And she believed that when we follow our bliss, as Joseph Campbell famously put it, we're naturally guided towards our purpose.
It sounds like it takes a lot of courage and faith to trust that inner guidance and to follow our dreams, especially if they seem unconventional or impractical.
It does. But Shin believed that when we align ourselves with our divine design, the universe conspires to support us.
Okay.
The right doors will open, the right people will appear, and the resources we need will magically manifest.
It's a beautiful and inspiring message, but I'm guessing it's not always a smooth and easy path.
Yeah.
What about those times when we face challenges or setbacks? How do we stay motivated and on track?
Shin emphasized the importance of cultivating resilience and perseverance. She believed that challenges are an inevitable part of the journey,
Okay.
but there are also opportunities for growth and learning.
So it's about embracing the ups and downs,
Mhm.
knowing that even the difficult times are serving a purpose.
Exactly. And she offered many practical tools for staying motivated and inspired, such as affirmations, visualizations, and gratitude practices. She also believed in the power of prayer and connecting with a higher power for guidance and support.
It sounds like she was advocating for a holistic approach to life, integrating the spiritual and the practical, the inner and the outer.
She was, and she believed that this integrated approach is the key to unlocking our full potential
Okay.
and creating a life that's truly aligned with our divine design.
This is also inspiring. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of Shin's work.
We have, but I think we've covered some of the most important takeaways
Yeah.
from the game of life and how to play it.
Yeah, my mind is swirling with all these amazing ideas.
I bet.
I'm definitely going to need to revisit this book and delve a little deeper into these principles.
I highly recommend it. And as you continue to explore Shin's work, just remember her core message. Life is a game, and you are the player. You have the power to choose your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions. And by aligning yourself with the universal laws that govern abundance, happiness, and fulfillment, you can create a life that truly reflects your highest potential.
Wow, that's a really powerful way to sum it up. I'm feeling incredibly inspired and empowered.
That's wonderful to hear, and I think that's a great place to pause for now.
Yes, I think we all need a moment to let all this wisdom sink in. We'll be back in a moment with the final part of our deep dive into the game of life and how to play it. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to our deep dives into the game of life and how to play it. I feel like we've been on quite a journey with Florence Scovel Shinn.
We have. We've explored so many profound concepts, from the power of the subconscious mind to, the transformative power of love and forgiveness. It's amazing how Shin kind of weaves all of these ideas together into a cohesive philosophy for living.
Yeah, and I think what has struck me most is just how much she emphasizes personal responsibility. It's not about waiting for good things to happen. It's about actually creating the life we desire.
Exactly. And she provides so many tools for doing that. We've talked about affirmations, we've talked about visualizations, and the importance of choosing our words carefully. But one technique we haven't discussed yet is the power of denials.
Denials. Okay, I'm not really familiar with that term. What are denials and how do they work?
Okay, so denials are statements that reject negative thoughts and beliefs. Shin believed that before we can fully embrace a positive affirmation, we often need to first, clear out the negative beliefs that are blocking our good.
So it's like clearing out the weeds in a garden before you plant new seeds.
Exactly. So, for instance, if you're struggling with feelings of lack or scarcity, you might deny that belief by saying something like, I deny lack and lactation. I am one with the infinite abundance of the universe.
So you're essentially stating what you don't believe, making space for what you do want to believe.
Precisely. It's about consciously choosing to reject those negative thoughts and patterns that are holding you back. And once you've cleared that space, you can then plant those positive affirmations that align with your desires.
So it's a 1-2 punch. First, you knock out the negative, and then you replace it with a positive.
I like that analogy. Shinn believed that this combination of denials and affirmations is a powerful way to reprogram the subconscious mind and create a new reality.
Yeah. It all comes back to the idea that our thoughts create our reality, right? If we can change our thinking, we can change our lives.
Exactly. And Shinn believed that this principle applies to every area of life, from our finances and relationships to our health and spiritual well-being.
Speaking of health, we talked earlier about Shinn's belief that illness often stems from, negative thought patterns and a lack of self-love. But what about those situations where, like, external factors, like accidents or genetic predispositions, seem to be the cause? How does Shinn's philosophy kind of address those situations?
That's a great question. While Shinn acknowledged that external factors can play a role, she also believed that we have much more power over our health than we often realize. She suggested that even in situations where, external factors seem to be at play, our thoughts and beliefs can influence the course of our healing.
So even if you have, like, a genetic predisposition to a certain illness, your thoughts and beliefs can still impact how that illness manifests in your body.
Exactly. It's not about blaming ourselves for getting sick, right? It's about recognizing that we have a role to play in the healing process. And she believed that this role involves cultivating a positive mental attitude, visualizing ourselves as healthy and whole, and affirming statements that, align with our desired state of well-being.
It sounds like she was advocating for a more proactive approach to health, like taking responsibility for our well-being rather than just passively accepting whatever comes our way.
Right, exactly. And she believed that this proactive approach extends to every area of life. It's about recognizing that we are not victims of circumstance, but rather co-creators of our reality.
It's empowering, isn't it, to know that we have the power to shape our lives, even in the face of challenges and setbacks.
It is, and Shinn believed that this power comes from aligning ourselves with those universal laws that govern abundance, happiness, and fulfillment. It's about recognizing that you're not separate from these laws, but rather an integral part of them.
So it's about, like, tapping into that universal flow and allowing it to kind of work through us.
Exactly. And Shinn believed that the key to accessing this flow is through faith. Not blind faith, but like a deep knowing that we are supported and guided by a power greater than ourselves.
It sounds like it takes a lot of trust to, like, surrender to that higher power and let it lead the way.
It does, but Shinn believed that this trust is essential for living a life of purpose and meaning. It's about recognizing that we're not alone on this journey, that we're guided and supported every step of the way.
It's a beautiful and comforting thought, isn't it?
It is, and it's a message that has resonated with readers for over a century.
I can definitely see why. Shinn's teachings are timeless and universal. They speak to that deep human longing for connection, for purpose, for fulfillment.
Yeah, and they offer a roadmap for, navigating life's challenges and creating a reality that really reflects our highest potential.
So what's the one key takeaway you'd want listeners to walk away with from this deep dive into the game of life and how to play it?
I think Shinn sums it up beautifully in her own words. She says, life is the game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy. It's just this really powerful reminder that we are the creators of our own reality. And by aligning ourselves with the laws of love, abundance, and forgiveness, we can create a life filled with joy, purpose, and meaning.
Beautifully said. It's a message that inspires us to take responsibility for our lives, to embrace the power of our thoughts, and to step into our role as conscious creators. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.